at this point. Everyone's going to be very high skill. We'll see how they decide to start things off. Already diverging. We get a small key to T-Rock in Link's house.
And we got 300 rupees here in the sanctuary. So Jet looking pretty good so far. Not even going to be doing any Houlihan strats, just going straight for Kakariko to get started here.
As Azazas looks to be going straight to Uncle, hoping to get a loan off of him.
And also checking the level 1 tree full. Looks like we have red rupees today, which is pretty nice. That's 80 rupees right there.
And some early bombs, although Jet is probably going to be wanting those a little bit more, as he's taking the usual Kakariko route that does require bombs a lot earlier.
Yeah, it's a nice little advantage Azazas will have, be able to check out those first Kakariko locations without having to worry about bombs. Jet will probably have to go purchase some himself.
Yep, nothing on Lumberjack to really write home about. Which is good news, with this being a Ganon seed and not all dungeons. Anything that, reduces the chance of needing to do Aga or pendant dungeons is always good news.
Yeah, definitely. But looks like Jet did find some bombs here in the forest, so he will not have to purchase some after all. So that's good. Good find from his end. And yeah, Azazas going to be doing the same checks as Jet, also picking up some more rupees. And we have another small key. This key to Dark Palace, we'll be finding a lot of those. There are 6 of those in the item pool.
Indeed, although depending on how you route it, you don't need all 6 to take care of the dungeon, especially if you're particularly good at that hammer yump.
Yeah, that's right. With hammer yump, and if you go in the bow early or even do the potion glitch, you can actually get away with only using 4 of those 6 small keys. But finding them all before you go in there is definitely nice. Allows you to kind of route the dungeon more creatively. So still want to be on the lookout for those anyway.
Of course, for all we know, we won't have to go into Pod much at all. But we won't know that until we get the maps for these dungeons. With this being Key Sanity, maps are actually useful. Compasses not so much, but maps can be useful.
Yeah, with the skill of these runners, compass is probably not going to be a big thing here, as we got a compass, a piece of heart, map the Turtle Rock, so we'll know what dungeon that is when we get Dark World, and the first glove upgrade as well. But yeah, in regards to what you were saying about maps and compasses, the thing about maps and compasses in this mode is since they're located out of dungeons, they're kind of given an extra feature in this mode where you can get some extra information from them. Compasses tell you how many dungeon items you have left in the dungeon when you're in there, and maps will be the indicator of whether or not it's a pendant or crystal, so you can kind of use that to figure out which dungeons you need to go to, which dungeons are the 5 and 6 or the green pendant. So really useful intel, but not necessarily required to beat the game by any stretch, as we do find the other glove upgrade inside the Kakariko well here.
Well, that gets us awfully close to Dark World. We just need that pearl, and we're good to go.
Definitely. And just a 20 rupee on the bottle vendor, so get 20 of the 100 rupees we had to spend for that.
I've made worse investments.
Yeah, I feel you on that one for sure.
And Azazas has the money to make possibly the worst investment if Zora seems like a smart move. But that is towards the end of this typical path that you would be taking, so may not have to do it.
Yeah, that's true. We could get some items that might kind of switch our routing a little bit, so that could always be a possibility. We did get another key to Palace of Darkness inside the tavern, so that's 2 keys for that dungeon.
And We'll just be making our last little set of checks. The library just having some bombs. We'll see what racing game offers up. Although Jet is going to take a peek before bothering to do it.
Ooh.
Good plan.
Yeah, very good plan, especially considering with the race game in Key Sanity, generally you see runners kind of gamble on that item being required because there's more items in the pool that you could potentially need, and it could save you a couple of seconds in the long run, which isn't too bad. But looks like Jet did not have to go back up there, so he is going to be moving off and going to be checking the back of escape now.
Yeah, this is one of those spots that if you're doing a standard open, or standard beginning rather, you kind of get through this, get the big key to Thieves Town, and then you kind of forget about it because you did it when you started off. In open, you have to remember to come back here as soon as you have the right ability to. And we're seeing asazas make that gamble that you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm. It won't be a whole lot of time, but it's especially when you have runners of this skill level, every second does count, so it is definitely worth picking up, or pointing out rather. Okay, so Jet's going to start our southern light world checks. Going to be checking out the dam here, first chest. We have just a compass to Dark Palace.
This is a lot of Dark Palace pieces. Game might be nudging in a certain direction.
Yeah, that could be the case. Never know. Sometimes I like to say that the seed is self-aware of what it wants you to do. So when you get an item, you take notice of what that next step in the chain is.
Small key to Ganon's tower. Nice to get one or two of those out of the way just so you don't have to think about them. But we're really looking for the big key. And that could be just about anywhere.
Yeah, pretty much. It could be in anywhere except 5 chests in Ganon's tower, pretty much. So yeah, that really could just be in any place in this world. So that's one thing you're going to want to find early. Thankfully, in version 30, there will be a telepathic hint tile that could tell you where the general location of the key is. So I assume our runners will be looking out for that as they're going through this. As now we're checking out Mini Moldarm Cave. We do find the lamp, a heart container, some more rupees, and the hook shots.
That is some strong Death Mountain progression. That is completely logical to go on up and go all the way to the east side. Even to the Dark World over there, although no Pearl, kind of silly.
It would definitely be a very strong play at this point. As you said, there's a lot of items up there. Pearl could very well be there, and that'll open up the Dark World of Death Mountain as well. And there is a case, we don't have that hammer yet. Hammer would be very nice to find pretty early, just so we have a wider Dark World access. So that could even be in the Dark World of Death Mountain for all we know. So could be definitely a strong play for him to go up in that direction.
Yeah, right now, once the Pearl shows up, the convenient Dark World spots are Death Mountain and Kakariko, or Village of Outcasts.
Yeah.
Which they have the big key to Thieves Town, so they might feel nudged in that direction. Basically, there's a lot of ways you could go right now, and how you approach the divergence is probably going to matter long term.
Yeah, it looks like Jet is going to be more than likely going up to Death Mountain now with where he started here. Because, yeah, he's cleared out Kakariko, so that is probably going to be his next destination. Also using the hook shot very effectively to kind of get through some of these overworld spots a little faster since we don't have those boots yet.
Yep, again, when we're at this level, every little time save matters. They all add up.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Couldn't agree more.
There's also always those opportunities for little sequence breaks. Our runners honestly could have come up here the moment they got their gloves. They didn't need the lamp to get Quake off the old man. They could fake flipper if they felt like it. How well those sequence breaks pay off is a very hard thing to predict. But when you're in a tighter spot than our runners are right now, they've got so many options. That could be the sort of thing that you feel pushed to do.
Yeah, when it comes to sequence breaks, the thing you gotta really kind of take in is more so the information. If you find a certain item behind there, you can almost kind of predict where other items are going to be. So like in the case of that, if there was like something that went beyond the lamp progression, we'd know that, be able to narrow down the lamp location just based on the fact that, well, okay, we won't get the lamp from anything that we get from up here anyway.
But we did get the Hyrule Castle key, which is the one that goes for the sewers, not the Aga Tower, if I understand correctly.
That is correct. If it says Hyrule Castle, it is just referring to the sewers one. I believe it's Castle Tower, if it's the Aga Tower keys.
Now we get to have a little fun in the old Paradox Cave. No swords, so if Jet does decide to bomb jump back, it's going to be a little trickier to set up, but still doable.
Mm-hmm. Okay, nothing substantial on the bottom part of Paradox Cave, so gonna check the top portion now. 5 more chests in here.
Azaza's giving us an interesting little bomb jump to get through Spec Rock.
Yeah, it does save a little bit of extra time, so definitely good to employ that when you can. We do find the book and the small key to Thieves Town. Unfortunately, we don't have the hammer yet, so can't make use of that big chest if we do go to Dark World, but we still do not have that pearl yet, and we have one more checkup here, I believe, so we're going to be checking that out next in the form of the Spiral Cave.
Yep, the Walk of Shame, considering a lack of boots.
Mm-hmm.
Although, Hookshot will make clearing out the enemies pretty fast. Even those jellyfish, no match.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like the Death Mountain Lonely Island does not have any progression either. It was just a red rupee, so let's start walking around this very huge spiral.
Hey, it gives you some time to contemplate and think about what you're going to do next.
I do see something interesting in chat. People are potentially talking about a Super Bunny situation, not something we see too often. And yeah, looks like that is what Jet is going to be doing. So we're actually going to see why the cave is called the Super Bunny Cave.
Well, I must say, I am all for Super Bunnies.
Although it's going to be Super Metroids right now, it looks like.
Hey, it's a crossover randomizer.
Yeah, a little bit.
Now, I do believe that in terms of the game logic, this is considered a sequence break. I believe the randomizer logic will never require you to do a Super Bunny.
That is correct. So, basically what is happening here is we are in the current bunny states, and the way the bunny state works is whenever you fall down a pit, when you come out of that pit, you'll actually kind of have a wider array of Link's normal actions. So we'll be able to actually move blocks and open chests in this form, despite the fact that we normally wouldn't be able to. So because of that, we can see what are in these chests: just a blue rupee and a sword.
What the hell? As if Metroids didn't have enough powers and capabilities, now it's armed.
Yeah, definitely. And we're also going to see the Turtle Rock medallion as well while we're here. Looks like it is the Quake medallion, which we do have, but we're still a Moon Pearl. We're still a hammer away from even stepping in there to check the hints, so not going to be on our agenda right now. As Azaza's not going to go get that sword, going to go straight for the next piece of the puzzle here in the Eastern Palace area. And Jet's going straight to the castle to check out the escape.
And Turtle Rock is the green pendant. So Hasrala gives you a little bit of intel in this mode. Along with the bomb shop, they will tell you where the 5-6 crystals are.
Mm-hmm. Also, according to chat, and I unfortunately missed this, the hammer was actually on Lake Hylia Island. So that's another... So in order to get that, we're going to need that Moon Pearl, obviously. And we're also going to need flippers and the mirror to even get that hammer.
Yeah, that is either going to be a fairly late hammer or a fairly rapid progression when it comes up.
Yeah, and we're going to be seeing like 2 different checks here. We're going to be taking a look at Eastern Palace and Hyrule Castle, so we could potentially find like an item in both places. So definitely going to be trying to watch both screens as best as we can so we can look at these items.
Now, I will point out, since Jet got the blue mail earlier over in Spiral Cave, and actually Asazas did as well, that's as good as they're going to get, because we're in hard mode, and red mail doesn't really exist. I mean, it does, but it doesn't.
Yeah, basically the both mails are in the item pool, but once you get the blue mail, the other one will turn, I believe, just into a red rupee. So you can't get any additional ones in hard mode, but they are both still very much in there.
Yep, and a similar deal with swords. We only go up to tempered, although all 4 swords are in the pool. So it would be a very strange route, but in theory, the sword that Jet got will be a rupee when Asazas gets there.
That's very much true. Yeah, that could definitely be the case. We did sequence break for that sword after all. Ooh, castle tower key from Asazas here. And a heart container in plain sights.
No, I mean, ideally, you only really find one castle tower key, because that lets you get both chests, but doesn't push you up towards Aga himself. That said, neither of our runners can get into the tower yet anyway.
Well, yeah, that's true. We still need Cape, and Asazas would also need the fighter sword as well to even get in there.
Jet's gonna make a long trek to the sewer. If this is an important item, then it's worth the time, but otherwise it's a bit of an obnoxious check.
Yeah, it is, and Asazas coming up empty in Eastern Palace, not finding really anything to progress the seed here. So, gonna still be on the lookout for what we're needing for this next part of the game. He looks like he's also gonna be going into Hyrule Castle to check that out, and Jet's not finding anything here in Hyrule Castle either.
Nah, just a big old 20. Our runner's really holding off on the desert area so far, but they got the book. So you can check a fair amount. Including Agita, who nobody seems to love.
Yeah, he's kind of located very, very far, and in most cases, he'd be kind of just going to desert just to see what he has, so yeah, runners aren't too big of a fan of going to see him. But yeah, at this point, you know, we have Agina, we have desert, as you mentioned, And I believe we also have Zora now too, since we have glove upgrades. I think those are the only spots we have right now in order to find some progression here. So we're running kind of into that either one side of the world or the other side of the world scenarios.
Yeah, and for sheer volume, desert is probably the smarter option.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because since we're lacking the pearl, we can't even do the fake flipper into waterfall. So we can't even get that little bit of sequence break.
Yeah, chat also pointing out Jet definitely had a faster time through the escape portion than what Asazas has, because Asazas only working with bombs here does not have the fighter sword that Jet sequence broke.
And he's doing some interesting landmine strats with those bombs and occasionally working out, but it is difficult.
Yes, it definitely is.
Fortunately, they are on hard mode, so the hookshot does still stun enemies. If they were playing expert, they wouldn't even have that to work with.
Yeah, and that is a potential mode they can select for this tournament, so... Oh, I did not know you could actually hookshot that big key.
I wouldn't have thought otherwise. I guess every key can be hookshotted. Now I'm trying to think if there's an exception to that, which I'm sure there is.
Like, I know you can't hookshot, like, the key, if there's a key in, Spectacle Rock, like, in plain sight. I know you can't hookshot it in that case, but if it's something that's normally dropped, and if it's a key that's normally droppable or on the floor or something, I think those are the ones you can probably hookshot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so where is Asazas going next? This could be the desert check for him. Yep, that looks to be the case here.
And since folks in chat are discussing key stealing, might as well touch on that. With this being key sanity and keys being, scattered about in almost arbitrary locations, there is still logic to where the keys are scattered around, such that you can never soft lock yourself, you can never lock yourself out of a dungeon entirely. There are rooms you can lock yourself out of, but generally speaking, you'll have the keys to get through. In some cases, those keys are, ones under pots or what have you, and you can misuse keys to a certain extent to sequence break by the logic, or just get somewhere a little easier. But that does come with, the risks that maybe the key you really needed is really far away.
Mm-hmm.
We see that pretty frequently in Turtle Rock. Players will steal the key for the lava chest and just hope that lava chest doesn't have anything. Making it possible to do Turtle Rock with only 3.
Yeah, it's very important to kind of just pay attention to the High Moon Pearl on Desert Ledge.
Well,
at least both of our runners made the right choice in coming here. That's good. But yeah, as I was saying, key sanity there is value to paying attention to that logic and just kind of being aware of the key situation and just kind of knowing like how many keys you have, and if you feel comfortable beating a dungeon without checking everything, like if you somehow know that their remaining items are not going to be anything, then yeah, you can kind of come into a dungeon and kind of play with the key logic a little bit to your advantage, get some items a bit earlier, and if you know you don't have to complete a dungeon, you can kind of skip the boss entirely in some cases.
And there's the silvers. And some good info that the left side of Swamp is not necessary.
That is very, very good to know. Both of those things, actually. So, if we get boots, I honestly would not be surprised to see either of our runners come back to get those just to make the Ganon fight a little faster.
Yep, although with this being hard mode, that only makes the Ganon fight easier.
Yep. In hard mode, silvers only work on Ganon. They just cannot be used anywhere else, so we will have probably a much harder Vitreous fights than we would be able to have if we did have silvers.
Yeah, Silver Arrows, Vitreous it's just so satisfying. It's just so clean.
It really, really is. I couldn't agree more. So we did find Ether Medallion inside Desert Palace. And of course we have the Moon Pearl here. So I think it's time to go into the Dark World and start getting some items.
Yep, at this point, we still don't know what Medallion Mire uses. We get a quick map check. Swamp and Thieves Town being crystals.
And Turtle Rock is the green pendant. It's always awkward having that as a pendant dungeon, especially of the green pendant variety.
Indeed. Yes, we have, at this point, a 2/3 chance that we're set to go for Mire as well. We won't know until we get there, but odds are decent.
Looks like we got the shovel here in Skull Woods.
And there's the Eastern Big Key. Not very useful until we get the bow, but at least we have it.
The one kind of annoying thing that could happen is if there's some sort of progression in the big chest of Eastern that will eventually lead to the bow. There is the possibility for that to happen in a seed like this, so hopefully to our runners it will not happen.
Or just a vanilla bow.
Yeah, that's true.
That's just as trolly, although a little faster and slightly less fun.
Also, Jet is entering the room. That will always have a Skullwood small key, even in Key Sanity. This will always be a small key, just so you cannot get soft locked in any way, shape, or form.
And it will always have that bouncy Gibdo, just having fun on the bumper.
I once saw that Gibdo actually get stuck on both of those bumpers and was just bouncing back and forth. It was really, really hilarious.
He's having a good time. There's only so much you can do in Skull Woods.
Yeah, that's fair.
And speaking of only so much you can do, not going to see the very end of this where Mothula is, because no Fire Rod. So our runners are going to have to come back later.
Yeah, but we did get some good checks in here. We did get that shovel. That shovel could end up leading to something, for all we know.
And Azaza's going to check out the bumper ledge, finding a tiny little shield that for some reason is always slightly miscolored when it's on the ground. Might just be dirty from laying around, but Azaza's probably going to let it just sit there and rust. Our runners tend not to bother with shields.
Yeah, if you happen to pick up one along the way, fine. Could get Fire Shield and block some of those fireballs a little bit easier. We do find the mirror, though, here in Village of Outcasts.
Yeah, no mirror shield is going to happen, but a mirror is very much going to happen.
Which means we are just the flippers away from getting our hammer.
Now, Azazus could go into Thieves Town and actually get all the way through, although the blind fight would be a particularly tough spectacle to pull off.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that. Azazus is actually not equipped at all to be able to fight blind. He does not have the sword that Jet has, and he doesn't have Samaria, Hammer, or Burna, so he could actually not fight blind unless he finds an item in here.
You can't damage him with bombs?
Nope.
I've never attempted it, but I figured
Nope.
it was 3 shots of any sort of damage. Oh, I am mistaken then.
That's fine. It's, you know, sometimes you would think bombs can do damage to any other boss, but yeah, bombs do not affect blind. So, you know, he's definitely going to be hoping to find a weapon of some sort in here that will allow him to do that.
So far, what we have found is another tiny shield, the cape, and that small key to Turtle Rock. So, decent volume of items nonetheless.
Yeah, Zaza's going to go ahead and just mirror on out. Does not want to take his chances with going through here and not finding a weapon, which I definitely understand, but this will definitely allow Jet to pretty much look at everything in here except that big chest item.
And so instead, Azazus is probably going to take Jeremiah on a tour, or at least a quick tour, and then take the purple chest around.
He does have the
Since
mirror,
that's
so that would be definitely a good idea for him for sure.
Yep, it's a convenient set of otherwise very annoying checks, and he's probably on his way down to Hype Cave regardless. After a bit of digging. Quite a bit of digging. This is a lot of digging.
Yeah. And all for another key to Dark House. Oh, there's a small key to Desert Palace inside the attic of Thieves Town. To answer a question in chat, the hammer is on the Lake Hylia Island, so we have the mirror to get there. We just need the flippers to get to that mirror spot.
Azazus just getting a little love from the blacksmiths. Almost called them lumberjacks. That's a different location.
So unless Jet finds something on blind here that kind of takes him a bit further into the logic here, honestly, I don't think Azazus is in too bad of a shape if he does have to go back to Thieves Town later, because he could have the benefit of that extra check that Jet will not have for a while.
Yeah, that is true. If there's something in the big chest here, that almost puts Jet at a disadvantage.
Mm-hmm. Very nice blind fight on Jet's end, though, and he gets just a map for Misery Mire, so we'll find out what that is.
A vanilla
Ooh.
flute. Well, toot toot, Stumpy.
Yeah, really, really nice find for Azazus there, although I'm sure Jet will be making that check when he starts going his rounds down there.
And so often the dig spot doesn't even have anything of interest, let alone a valuable progression item, let alone the exact valuable progression item it's supposed to have.
Yeah, I know, right? Okay, just some bombs from Purple Chest, so unfortunately that long trek didn't exactly pay out, but we do have a few other things we can do. Azaza's not going to be able to get this item, but we'll be checking what's on the Ether Tablet. Just a piece of heart.
Worth the check, at least to get it out of your mind.
Yeah. But yeah, in order to get what's actually on the Ether Medallion, we need at least Master Sword for that. The book is not enough.
So yeah, from here we can expect this Hype Cave check, probably a visit to the bomb shop, and then I don't know where Azazus goes from here. Probably depends on if he finds any progression.
Yeah, we'll see. We get the Cane of Burna, so that's a blind weapon now. Some rupees and another map, a useless map at that. So, yep, didn't find anything in Hype Cave anyway.
Yeah, and with that cape, this actually could be a decent time to swing up to Castle Tower and get those two chests out of the way.
This is true. That would be a good time to check that.
We have Mire and Skull Woods as our red crystals. Azazus gonna save Quid out. Probably more interested in the flute right now.
Yeah, the flute would give us 3 more checks inside the Misery Mire area, so that could be what he's thinking here.
It's also just the extra speed of the fast travel. You know, it's so convenient that you kind of want to have that early.
Yeah, definitely.
And a customary quack quack.
Good old Swag Duck. And yep, he is going straight to Mire, wants to see what he can find here.
As Jet picks up the flute as well. We got Ether as our medallion from Bisrimire. It's another vanilla one.
Yeah, both vanilla medallion requirements in this seed.
And Zabo.
Ooh.
So now Eastern is fully clearable, and Pod, if you find a way over there, you can get relatively deep in. But you gotta find a way over there.
Mm-hmm. For all we know, the flippers could actually end up being in Palace of Darkness. We might need to double dip that just to kind of get more stuff in Pod.
Well, right now, I think the only way to get to Pod would be to do Aga.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's true.
If flippers are there, like, this is not a dead Aga just yet.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true. So Azazus is going back to Death Mountain. We'll be able to check Super Bunny get his sword, but more than that, there's Hookshot Cave where there's going to be 4 more items up in there.
So with Jet having already done Super Bunny, I'm not sure where exactly he's going to head after activating his flute.
He's probably going to also check the Mire area first, and
True.
at that point he might feel inclined to go back up there for those 4 items. I mean, 4 items could be anything, could even be key progression for all we know, so... Oh, and we can actually, since we have the mirror, we can actually do stuff in Tower of Hera now, too, because we can just go over to Ganon's Tower and mirror there.
And there's a fire rod to do things that aren't in Hera.
And a bottle. A key to Dark Palace. That's 4, I believe, we found now.
Yeah, surprisingly valuable Hookshot Cave.
Oh, and we can also see what's on the Ether tablets as well.
Just some bombs.
Both of our tablets not really paying off today.
The big key for Ganon's Tower, over in Hera.
Not too far from where it would be in its vanilla location, just a light world away from Ganon's Tower.
And the Master Sword.
That is actually all we can do inside Tower of Hera. We don't have the big or small keys, so cannot finish that right now, but you know, we found some good things up here, so Zazas has a lot of options at his disposal.
Jet found some good things too with that cane.
Oh, yes, cane in Desert Palace. Sick kid, just giving off a piece of his heart for some reason. I don't know, that might be why you're sick, sick kid.
I don't know, maybe that was the sick part of him. Maybe it was just a chunk of the heart that needed help.
I guess.
And now he's actually cursed Link with his illness. It's very rude of you, sick kid.
I can't believe you did that.
Yeah, with Fire Rod, Master Sword, and the information, this is a very easy choice to go clear Skull Woods.
Meanwhile, Jet, since he did find that cane of Samaria, actually going to be going into Misery Mire.
Yeah, he's got the gear for it, doesn't have the keys, but you can still check quite a bit.
Yeah, he has one small key, which, you know, could help him route this a little faster in a more convenient way. But yeah, he does not have that big key, so he would not be able to complete it yet, unless he finds it in here.
Of course, this is Mire we're talking about, with quite an interesting key layout, and Ped, unfortunately, is dead.
So the only thing that book helping us with today would be just getting into desert for that moon pearl.
And now that shield up on Bumper Ledge is just going to be rupees, and there's some flippers
Ooh.
over in Skull Woods. Quite the play indeed.
Yeah, looks like, you know, I would have, at the beginning of this race, I definitely would have given the nod to Jet a little bit, especially with that sword pickup, being able to do a lot more early on, but Azazas' routing to go back up to Death Mountain when he did is really paying off here. Got the Fire Rod, which took him in here, which got him the Flippers, which will in turn give him the Hammer. He has a lot open to him right now, so I think it's kind of turning in his advantage now.
Yeah, but it's worth saying, Jet has not made any calls that were especially bad. There's
Oh, definitely.
just a lot of luck involved in Rando.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, definitely. And you know, that Canis and Maria that he found could also end up being important. Who knows when Azazas is going to dip back in the desert for that? So, you know, that it's still very much anyone's race still.
and actually, those flippers mean that Aga is indeed done and gone. We won't be going up there.
Yeah, you know, if we're in the area, maybe we'll check out the 2 chests in his tower. But aside from that, yeah, I don't think either of our runners are going to go as far as beating him for this seed.
Jeff finding the big key to Swamp. One of the big keys that we don't actually need.
Yeah, that's definitely a case where the small key is infinitely more important than the big key. Because we need that small key to even do anything in the swamp. But the big key, yeah, probably not even going to be required. Don't even need that for the boss, so... Okay, looks like Jet is actually not too far off track, though. He is going back to Death Mountain now, so this will allow him to check the other big location on Dark Death Mountain. So we'll get his Fire Rod. If he goes over to Hera, he'll also get his Master Sword, so he is definitely on track now.
Yeah, on that one, it's really just a question of if he decides to go to Hera. We don't necessarily need to right now, and with only 2 item locations, it's not the highest value payoff.
I would almost debate that as 2 item locations and 2 pieces of information, because we do have that hint, and we also have, he'd have to check Ether Tablet too, so it could be inclined to check that just for those reasons alone.
Yeah, the intel is pretty valuable, so that is fair. Although it wound up that the hint tile wasn't anything of note.
Yeah, and neither was the Ether Tablet, but unfortunately Jet just does not know that yet, so... Catfish just handing out a compass today. But I really like the way Azazas routed this. Now that he has the flippers, he can actually fully check the Zora area now too. So, or not.
This is curious behavior.
I'm wondering if maybe, as chat's saying, I think he may have wants the hammer first, and if he mirrors there, he won't be able to get it, so he could be getting the hammer, then doing Zora then.
That is... yeah, that is true. It would be a very, very obnoxious warp to get down to the Dark Lake again.
So yeah, he's gonna do this little loop instead. Gonna check Pyramid, Castle Tower potentially as well, and then going down to Hobo, then mirroring for Hammer, then going to the Zora area at that point.
And leave the heart container alone, at least for the time being. In hard mode, you can only go up to 14 hearts rather than the full 20, but heart containers are still pretty useful.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you know that you're not going to be getting the red mail, and if the seed starts getting stingy when it comes to heart pieces and heart containers, that's good intel to have, so if you still need like one extra heart when you arrive for the Ganon fight, you can just walk on over there and grab it really quick. Another Dark Palace key. I think we're up to, at least in terms of what we know about, I think we're up to 5.
Yeah, at this point, once Azazas goes and gets the hammer, I can see a full clear happening. Or at least a substantial clear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we do not have the big key to pod just yet, but still, it's a lot of items we can get in there. Okay, Azazas is not checking Hobo, but he is going over here to grab this hammer.
Maybe just one-track mind on the hammer, or forgot about the hobo entirely. No, it's going back. Just a very one-track mind.
Hmm. This is definitely something that when I first saw someone do this in a race, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Why not just use the mirror there? But it's maybe not entirely obvious, because you're not used to doing that, I guess. Ooh, a big key to Misery Mire. Ooh, Jet could have used that a little earlier.
Yeah. Once his Azazas gets in, that's gonna be a one-shot. Assuming, of course, he gets the cane first.
Mm-hmm.
In a normal mode, you really wouldn't bank on Misery Mire having very much in the way of items, but in Key Sanity, a lot of those key chests are now anything chests.
Yeah. It pretty much goes from being a 2-item location to I believe, an 8-item location, so it's infinitely more valuable in Key Sanity.
And somewhat less valuable in hard mode is that magic powder, because you don't really get much from powdering anti-fairies.
Yeah, you still get 1 heart at least, but it's still just 1 heart. So, you know, maybe if you want to get some health here and there, it's a good way to just sprinkle that on the anti-fairy, get an extra heart. But if you're pretty close to full health, you may not bother with that.
And there's our bad investment of the day.
Yeah, a little bit. So it looks like Azazas is returning to the village, more than likely going to take out Thieves Town next. And we'll be able to see that big chest location that Jet was unable to get earlier.
And at this point, our runners are mainly just hunting for keys. In terms of items, we pretty much have no mode.
Yeah, pretty much. We might still need the boots for something, like maybe if, well, actually, maybe not. 'Cause, yeah, we have the big key to Ganon's Tower already, so...
Yeah, but there could be a big key in Bonk Rocks, or...
Yeah, there could be
King's
something.
Tomb.
And of course, general fetch quest items too, but yeah. We are pretty close to that no-mode state. We still don't really have full dungeon information yet, though, which is interesting.
Yeah, what we're running on now is just keys and intel, and those have been surprisingly thin.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, Ice Palace and Hera, we have literally nothing.
Given for Ice Palace, I mean, if you know your tricks and everything, you don't really even need any keys for Ice Palace. But, you know, still, like, sometimes you want to use keys as information for, okay, is there something in Ice Palace I could be needing? But we don't even have that going for us right now.
Yeah, right now, if you're going to follow the logic, Ice Palace is the furthest place from your mind.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
And Jet will cross dimensions to avoid the compass that Catfish gives you.
So in terms of what we do have information for, we do know Swamp is a crystal dungeon, and we have all the items we need to get through Swamp, but we do not have that small key yet that we need to get through the first locked door that's in the very first room of the dungeon. So we're still essentially missing an entire bunch of items in Swamp that are blocked behind just one small key.
And of course, I say that Ice Palace is the furthest from anyone's mind, but there are still item locations that we can hit up without any keys. So there's always the chance of something sneaky there.
We do see that Jet is not going to need to come back into Thieves Town. We just found a compass in the big chest, so he definitely avoided having to double dip that, unless he just is in a position where he's back in the area and might consider checking that on a gamble or something, but would not be anything if he does make that decision.
Yeah, that's going to be a desperation chest at best.
Anyway, Azazel's going to be doing his blind fight now.
Very good run of the script here. This takes one little ping, but otherwise very clean.
Okay, so that is Azaz's second crystal. Both of our runners are tied right now in terms of their crystal counts.
Yep, and with the exact same two at that.
And at this point, from the look of things, really the difference between both of our runners here is, you know, Jet still doesn't have the hammer, and Asazas still doesn't have Samaria, and we both know we know where both of those items are, so they're really very, very close at this point, I'd say.
Yeah, and at this point, pretty much any dungeon dip is going to be at least a little bit of a gamble, either in terms of being able to complete it, Mire aside for Zazas, or you can clear Eastern, but you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah, that's true.
There's our first Ice Palace key.
So that does open up Ice Palace a little bit in terms of locations and whatnot, but I think Asazas at this point is probably... Yep, he's going to Lake Hylia.
He's gonna take the queue as it comes, I suppose.
I guess so. But we do also get some hints in Ice Palace, and that could definitely help quite a bit. So we do find a shield is fire locked in Misery Mire, which we already knew, but Zazas may not check the fire lock side then if he thinks the odds are in his favor. So Jet's going to Palace of Darkness without the hammer. I don't think he knows the hammer is on Lake Hylia Island yet.
Yeah, I'm starting to get the suspicion that he never actually made that peak.
That could hurt a bit, assuming he doesn't find anything that would lock him out of going further, but at this point with 5 keys, that's full range to make a lot of checks in here.
A unique item in Ganon's Tower.
Let's go, Ice Rod.
I mean, that would be good news. Because then that means you don't have to finish T-Rock, you don't have to worry about Sahasrahla. But I'm saying let's go Boots.
Yeah, I was getting ready to mention that, but yeah, Boots, definitely, there is always in every seed one hint that will pertain to the Boots. So that very well could be our Boots hint, for all we know. No, the single rupee does not count as a unique item, mainly because I think there's actually 2 of them, so...
I think the single arrow does count.
Yeah, the single arrow counts because there's only 1 single arrow item in the pool. And even then, rupees I don't think are considered anyway because they're all kind of classified as cash. So even rupee denominations are not unique either.
But still, the single arrow as a unique item, it's a classic hint troll.
It is. We did find the Tempered Sword here in Ice Palace, so Zazas has a pretty nice sword advantage right now as we're going to the back of Eastern, getting ready to fight the Armos Knights. We'll find out if this is a Pendant or Crystal Dungeon.
And it's worth pointing out, even though we're on Azazas' audio, in Key Sanity, the dungeon music isn't a clue. That's randomized as well. It's a crystal.
You have a crystal. Okay. And we got some more old news from the third hint in Ice Palace.
And yes, we do have the ice rod here in Ice Palace. It's nice and thematic.
Mm-hmm. We do find out that the item locked behind the small key in Hera is not going to be required. It is just a map, so don't need to worry about getting that Hera small key.
Yeah, that is one way to spend a Sunday morning, though, is have your little coffee break and a little bit of light reading.
Mm-hmm. And we have the Book of Medora, so that'd be great reading to do.
Oh yeah, you can cover all sorts of topics. Get a little bit of geography, a little bit of language learning.
Learn how to read tablets, all the good stuff. Okay, so next up we're going to have the Cold Stare fight on Azazas' end. We're going to find out if this is going to be a pendant or crystal.
No bombos, no half magic, no problem.
Yeah, really. Just a red rupee and a crystal here in Ice Palace as well.
So we've had 2 gamble clears that paid off. It's good for both of our runners.
And at this point, like, looking at our items right now, we are literally, I want to say, 3 keys from Go Mode? Because we need at least 1 key in every dungeon that we still don't have the information for yet.
Yeah, and only one of them is going to be a crystal. We still need the small key for Swamp. But
Okay,
yeah,
2
Mire
keys,
is
then.
yeah, Mire is fine, and it's whatever last key we need from the mystery dungeons. A shroom. So that could be an annoying fetch quest or a red herring.
And there's the other sword upgrade. So all 4 sword upgrades have been found, and the max swords have been reached for both runners.
Yep, so Azazas is going to illustrate what we mean by the swords vanishing when he gets over to Pod. Assuming he doesn't just go to the dungeon.
Looks like we did find the Desert Palace big key inside Palace of Darkness, so that's one of the keys, I believe. And that actually could be a good find for Azazas, because that'd put him back en route to Desert and could give him the Cane of Samaria as well as the Mire clear as well.
Yeah, if he decides to do Pod next, then yeah, give him a good nudge. Not even bothering with the Eastern Big Chest, just scooting right along.
Okay, it looks like Jet is going to be seeing what he needs. Yep. Not even going to continue with that water journey. Heading right back up so we can get that.
And as our runners are sort of retracing each other's steps, we'll take a moment to suggest that if you're enjoying what you're seeing from these runners, you might want to go give them a quick follow.
Definitely, and another thing to point out is tomorrow at the same exact time, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, both these runners will be doing their game 2. This is game 1. Much like the group stages, there's going to be basically 3 games max per matchup. Unlike the group stages, though, once you get 2 wins, you will be advancing onto the next round of the brackets. So it's a best of 3 scenario for brackets. So game 3 could potentially happen. We'll have to see what happens in game 2 at that point. But this is game 1. Settings chosen by Jet, who is the higher seed. And yeah, that's pretty much what we got on the table here today.
So no matter how quickly this run goes, do know that this is technically a Jet seed.
Yes. I mean, this is a pretty fast Key Sanity seed, all things considered.
And our runners playing so well certainly contributes to that as well.
Mm-hmm. Also, it looks like Zayas forgot to check the big chest and probably did not like what he saw there, but whatever. He got it. Got it out of his mind.
As Jet gets the Mire big key into his hand.
So he's probably also going to be heading back to the... Well, first he's going to turn in that mushroom, which makes sense. But I imagine he'll probably go back to the Mire desert area to finish up those dungeons now that he has the big keys that he needs.
Those drugs fetch a high price on this market. But Jet's not going to bother. He's got more than enough money for the rest of the sea.
But first he is going to take out Desert Palace. But he really wants that dungeon clear information. Hylia, Jet got Tempered Sword inside Palace of Darkness.
Meanwhile, Asazas got Tempered Sword inside of Ice Palace.
So if you see a red rupee in here, that means that that was where the sword would have been if this wasn't hard mode.
And then you can go over to swordless mode, where all the swords are replaced by green 20s, just to make sure you know you could have had a sword.
Yeah. It is always fun to see where those locations end up, but it is definitely just kind of a taunt, like, oh, you shouldn't have done swordless. You would have had a sword right here.
It's also a small bit of intel early on, because you know when you get, say, a Master Sword and a lamp very quickly, it's a little sketchy towards the Aga route.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we do learn that that Desert Big Key did not lead to anything substantial. Desert Palace is a pendant dungeon, so that's one of the other pendants we need information for. So at this point, the last pendant's either going to be Tower of Hera or Palace of Darkness.
Yep, and with what we have, it is a total coin flip.
Mm-hmm.
There's our sword money.
And and yep, just 50 rupees here in Desert Palace, so... You know, Azaza's going to get the benefit of going to Desert Palace to get the Cane of Samaria, but Jet, unfortunately, it was a bit of a time sink for him, but going to press on, did not have the information. I'm just going to go clear out Misery Mire now.
Also want to point out just how easily our runners are doing that hammer jump. There's not much pausing, not much buffering, and that is an extremely tricky bomb jump to get.
Yeah, definitely.
So Azaza's right behind on heading towards Desert and Mire. Hopefully goes to Desert first to get that cane.
He is pulling out that mirror, so he will definitely be getting that first, which is good.
Now with this Mire clear, Jet will be able to do the Pyramid Fairy checks as well, if he's so inclined. Still looking for the stray key or two, so still worth doing those checks.
Okay, Azazas gets the Cane of Samaria. So yeah, at this point, what we're looking for is the Swamp Small Key and either the Hera Big Key or Pod Big Key, because we don't know the information on those dungeons just yet.
Jet going with the spin strats, little dangerous with this level of health and how much healing you can actually get from potions in hard mode, but seems to be handling the eyeballs just fine.
And yeah, I do see some talking chats about a potential dip into Turtle Rock. We have not dipped into that dungeon yet, and we do have a couple of small keys, so we can get some items in there. So that could be potentially on the table at some point.
Yeah, we were getting keys for that very early on. Granted, we didn't have access until we got the king, which was somewhat late, but it's been telling us to keep that on our minds for a while.
And yeah, it looks like Jet is going to be taking on Ice Palace next. Makes sense. He still hasn't come in here yet. Although he does not have a small key, so we'll have to route this in a more interesting way.
Yep, but as we were saying, with the right bomb jump, it's perfectly doable.
Yeah, it's definitely doable. It also looks like Azazus did not finish up Desert Palace, so could potentially save some time. Not too much time, but could save some time by not going there and kind of gambling on maybe the Dungeons of Pendant or something.
Yeah, we'll see what his decision ends up being, because again, he is right in that area and does not have the information as to whether that's a crystal or a pendant.
Very true, and that would be one more item as well, so...
Phylon over in chat, cursing our runners with especially roundabout and obnoxious routes and strategies, so if anything does go wrong, you know who to blame.
I also really like Azazus's rupee count right now. 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's pleasing.
Mm.
Jet's a big 20 away from the same, though.
Oh, wow, yeah, he is.
Yeah, just a fair bit of overlap at this stage. Our runner's kind of taking care of some of the other one handled.
Yeah, pretty much. Once they both finish these dungeons, that's when, it's going to start getting to that point where, like, our runners will have to start choosing different directions to go. And it could be a case where, one direction could pay off and the other one doesn't. It's, kind of a shame because, both of our runners have been showing amazing skill in this race and have been showing really good routing to boot. But sometimes Randomizer, it just comes down to, like, that one check that just becomes a little more valuable than the other, and we're kind of entering that stage where that's probably going to be the case here.
Yeah, I was saying earlier about how much Randomizer involves luck. I've heard it compared to poker, where you're not going to win if you're not a strong player, but even if you're a strong player, things just can go against you.
Oh, exactly. Couldn't agree more. Very nice Vitreous fight from Azazus, takes him down, and we'll get his 5th crystal from the look of it. So just 2 crystals remain, and still need 2 keys of some sort to get through it. Yeah, as you said, looks like Azazus is going to be finishing up Desert after all. Makes sense. I mean, if you get one more crystal out of it, then you'd be 1 key away from Go mode. But unfortunately, we know that it's going to be a pendant that he's going to be pulling here.
It still amuses me how Ice Palace is such an intricate design, such an elaborate and yet simple puzzle, and it's completely rendered null and void by a single bomb jump.
Yeah, really.
Puffs get a little bit away from Jet, but not too badly. Cleans up the Cold Stare fight.
And he is at 5 crystals now as well. Which means he'll get a little bit of a head start moving towards the next item checks, as Asazas is finishing up the Lemnol's fight here. So at this point, you could say that Jet is slightly ahead, but even then, there are a couple of extra checks that Asazas has made that Jet hasn't. Like, one thing that Asazas has done that Jet hasn't is he checked the Magic Bat, which Jet could be checking right now.
As well as the big chest in Thieves Town, which I don't believe Jet dipped back for yet. Oh, we know Pod is the other medallion, so it is Hera.
Okay, so we need that Hera big key, and we need the Swamp Palace small key before we're in potential go mode. If any of those keys happen to be locked behind the boots, that's another story completely, but we'll have to see about that later.
And of course we know the silver arrows are locked behind boots, so if we don't see those until very late, we're gonna get to see some silverless Ganon fights.
Yeah, at this point, like, I feel like it would be kind of testing the limits of silverless if you end up going back to get the silvers. I think both of our runners are more than experienced with silverless strats, so they're probably going to stick with that as opposed to going to the silvers.
Yeah, especially with Tempered Sword.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, looks like Azaza is going to be checking out Spike Cave next.
Yeah, we're getting in the range of those annoying one-off locations. So it's just pick one and commit.
Yeah, pretty much. Also a fun fact, since this is hard mode, Cane of Burna, it does still work in this room, but any rooms that don't have spikes, the invincibility granted by Burna will actually not be in effect, but it is programmed so you can still use it in rooms that have spikes, or you would essentially need Burna to actually get across.
Looks like both of our runners are going for the big bomb.
Yep, that's what it looks like.
Pretty sensible decision here. As I was saying, we're getting into one-offs, and Pyramid Fairy is a two-off. That's better.
Although I would have been personally a little more interested in the current... actually, I think it's even bigger than 4, but Turtle Rock is definitely open as well, and there's a couple of items we could get from that with 2 small keys.
That is very true.
Small key.
There's our swamp. There's our swamp key.
Okay, so with that, we're definitely going to swamp next. There's so many items in there. That's definitely going to be the next play, I imagine, for both. So we are a pod key away from go mode now. Pod big key. Oh, Hera, sorry.
Big key.
Yeah.
Although for all we know, Hera big key is on Helmasaur.
That's true. That could still happen. Maybe that's what I was thinking of.
Just jumping straight to the mild troll. Not the worst troll, but a troll.
No, actually, we have the Ganon's Tower Big Key song waves. I actually kind of forgot where we found that, but yeah, we did find that relatively early.
Yeah, I just realized I didn't note that one down either.
It was a check that both of our runners made, so it will not give them any trouble whatsoever.
Yeah, we did get a hint that the left side of Swamp is useless. I don't remember that both of our runners saw that.
I want to say they've checked all the same hints, so I think they both did get that information. And yeah, the the Ganon's Tower Big Key was in Tower of Hera. That's right.
Yes. And the Turtle Rock Big Key is right here in Swamp.
That, I believe, gives an extra few checks in Turtle Rock at this point.
Yeah, I think we need one more key before we can get all the way to Laser Bridge, but it buys us a bit more.
And again, that of course assumes that if we need to go there to find the Hera Big Key.
Yeah, as much as runners always love to be able to go mode Swamp, we're still hunting. We're still looking for key. So, gotta do all these little side rooms.
And again, looking at what we need still, like if we see a big key... Oh, yeah, okay. That's exactly what I was going to call attention to, is that, you know, if we see a big key, it could have been either that Ice Palace big key, and it could also be the Palace of Darkness big key, so, you know, there's still going to be that anticipation of just waiting to see what that text says when you find a big key.
And so obviously fighting Cold Stare was a bit of a sequence break. I don't know how much of the rest of Ice Palace the logic would be considering a sequence break at this point. You know, with the big key being where it was.
Right. From what I remember, we didn't get anything major except the sword upgrade from Ice Palace, so, you know, it doesn't really play with the logic too much, but yeah, that big chest in Ice Palace could end up being the location we need at that point.
Yeah, and that's one location at a pretty high investment, so if anyone goes for it, it's definitely a gamble.
Yeah,
but
really.
It could be the right one. Yeah, here we get to see the easiest Argus fight this side of hard mode. We got all the gear that would make it nice and fast.
And a small key to Turtle Rock.
I mean, our runners can full clear it now, except for the lava chest, if they want to.
I have a feeling that's going to be Jet's next move, just with that find. Yeah, Jet not checking left side, so he definitely got that hint. And we'll see if Asazas did the same. Yep, both saw the hint then.
So in a way, this ending is actually pretty convenient as far as routing goes. Assuming the Hera Big Key is here, which obviously we don't know, we'll be able to go straight from here over to Hera, and then mirror back, and we're at Ganon's Tower.
Yeah, it is very, very convenient, and it would be if it is in here. But, you know, big if, like, we could end up getting the Palace of Darkness Big Key and have to go back down there. But, you know, we have a lot of chests in here. We have a lot of items, potential to be in here, so we'll see what happens.
The Skull Wood small key, very much not required.
Yeah, sorry game, we beat that dungeon ages ago.
And really, thanks to the bouncy Gibdo room and stealing a key from under a skull, you don't need any small keys.
Okay, 2 more checks here in Turtle Rock. Nothing in those rooms. Giving a little high five right there.
Yeah, if the Hera Big Key is here, then we're functionally in go mode, and it's coming down to execution pretty soon.
Yeah, it really is. At this point, Jet's just 2 rooms ahead of Asazas right now, so it's very, very close between both of these guys.
And here we're going to see Jet steal this key. Very high likelihood. Also, decent chance of accidentally bumping the door and not being able to steal it, which can be pretty much catastrophic.
Yeah, definitely. But, you know, for all we know, that big key could be in that chest.
I mean, I've definitely seen both happen. I've seen a runner accidentally spend that key, and I've seen something very important be in that chest. Unfortunately for said runners, they weren't at the same time. Azazas is intentionally going for it.
Oh, this could be huge if this is. Ooh,
Womp womp.
just 10 bombs, unfortunately. Jet checking out Mimic Cave. Guess we did not get a hint for this, so gonna see what's in here.
It's worth pointing out that getting that stealing that small key really only gets you Trinex.
True, yeah.
So we do make a bit of a deal around stealing that key, but in the end, you're trading one off for another.
Yeah, well, bigger picture, we did get the second Castle Tower small key, so now we could beat Ganon if we really wanted to.
Yes, very important. Thank you for keeping our eyes on the prize.
Big key, Hera! He's continuing. Wait, does he have the information?
I don't know.
This is interesting.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, we know Jet went to Sahasrara. I'm pretty sure he did talk to him.
Well, I more so meant the information for Hera, because I know Azazas knows it.
Oh yeah, he could be metagaming a little bit and thinking that that pod has to be the last crystal because we've gotten so much of it so early.
Maybe. Yeah, because Azazas is mirroring out right now. Or saving and quitting.
Mire small key. Lots of useless keys over on Laser Bridge. Yeah, Zazas is just full-on go mode, just making the moves. Jet is gonna go back and check Lava Chest.
Oh, okay. So yeah, he's trying to not spend that small key. So if this ends up not being what he needs, he's gonna do a hard reset and then not waste it, so he can beat Trinex if he needs to, which we know he won't because we have what we need for go mode at this point. But Jet does not have the information about that last crystal, I'm guessing at this point. That has to be the explanation here.
Yep, there's our hard reset. Perfectly valid strats, of course.
So yeah, Azazas is entering Tower of Hera now, and it looks like Jet's going to be doing the same thing anyway. He does have the big key, so he's going to get his last crystal regardless. But again, just that little time save by knowing the information beforehand did allow Azazas to kind of push for the lead here. So that's what this race is coming down to. It's still definitely about execution, though. Let's not forget about that. We're at the most execution-heavy part of the game, so we're going to have to see how this plays out.
Yeah, that is true. We still don't have boots. Jet could be try to make the occasional peak for him, but that was a pretty heavy investment for boots so late in the game.
Ooh, and Moldorm immediately knocks Azazas off, so gonna lose a little bit of time right there.
You know, despite this being hard mode, they have not altered Moldorm's programming to be more obnoxious. This is the same level of annoying it's always been.
Oh, and another thing Jet will have to do, Azazas came here via the portal, I believe. So, oh wait, no he didn't. He saved and quit as well, so never mind. Okay, they both have to go to the Dark World first.
No, Azazas did portal in.
Oh, he did. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. So he saved and quit, and then went back the other way. My bad. But so my point stands is that Azazas saved some time by bringing the portal here, so he'll go straight into Ganon's Tower while Jet has to go get the Dark World access.
And yes, there is a whole guessing game with where's the Ganon's Tower big key going to be in Ganon's Tower basement. The Ganon's Tower big key wasn't in Ganon's Tower basement, so...
Yeah. I mean, if anyone wants to go back through the VOD and count every individual chest until the big key's gotten, like, you know, feel free to, but we're not gonna worry about keeping track of that, so we're just not gonna run the game in this case.
Yeah, that said, there are several non-key sanity tournament races scheduled for the near future, including one at 4:30 p.m. Eastern on this very channel. And that's today.
And then we have another one on this very channel as well at 7:20. So this channel getting a lot of love for the Randomizer tournament today. So stay here if you want to watch more of this tournament. Other tournament races that will be taking place. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, the one after this is Inverted Swordless Hard Mode. So if you were looking at this key sanity run and being like, this is a bit tricky, you can see something really, really fascinating.
Yeah, you won't have to worry about keys or anything in that run, but there will definitely be other challenges just with that inverted alone, and swordless for that matter too. So, yeah, definitely a challenge of a different kind.
And no boots means this room that Azazas is in especially obnoxious.
Yeah. Using the hookshot just to stun all these guys to stop pushing them off, honestly, a good strategy.
this has been a pretty clean and solid gauntlet for both runners. Zazas obviously having a few rooms worth of lead.
And yeah, Zazas entering the Moldorm 2 fight as soon as Jet finishes the Lamnola 2 fight. So yeah, really close. You know, something big like a fall on Ganon could, you know, change that lead right back again. So we'll have to see how this goes.
And we finish off with the desert map.
That would have been good to have earlier, so we'd know if it was a pendant. Oh well.
I mean, hey, there was still the chance that Boots could be there.
True.
That might have counted as a double, might only have counted as a single. That's definitely a single. And again, not giving the friendliest of patterns.
Definitely not. This could be good though. That wasn't.
There you go.
And as Zazas finishes up back at 2, Jet approaching Moldorm 2, so really keeping that lead differential.
Jet, meanwhile, no need for a map. He knows where he is.
Yeah. Although you did bring up a good point by mentioning boots being potentially in that chest. That does make this room a lot easier if you did have the boots, so that would have been a good reason to check that.
Zazas already in phase 3. As Jet gets the same 2-1-1-2 to clear out Aga 2.
Yes, we did find those silvers inside Desert Palace, but unfortunately we did not find those boots, so gonna be sticking to silverless strats here.
So yeah, like you were saying, a single Ganon fall for Zazas would completely flip the lead.
Mm-hmm. And Zazas gets him down, just has to not walk off the edge here, and he is good to go.
We say that and it sounds condescending at times, but I've done it.
Yeah, I feel like everyone's done it at some points. But yeah, there we go. We have a finish as Zazas is finished in first place with a time of 1 hour, 54 minutes, and 51 seconds. Get your GGs in chats as Zazas is taking game 1.
And with Jet not that... Oh,
Ooh.
I was gonna say not that far behind. I think he just decided to take a jump when he saw the dot done, perhaps? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. It may have just been because that did kind of come at a very interesting time. So, oh, no torch glitch. May have just wanted to get
Oh,
torch
yeah.
glitch. Yeah, because doing swordless strats without torch glitch is a very, very annoying experience, especially when you don't have half magic. So I can understand that.
Yes, but while we wait for Jet to wrap that up, we do have Azazas in voice. So, Azazas, GG.
GG, thank you. Well, this was quite close, I think.
Yeah, it was very, very close for certain. The lead definitely changed a lot, especially over the last 30 minutes of the run. Jet actually going into Turtle Rock before you did, getting the big key to Hera before you did, but unfortunately did not have the information about Tower of Hera, it being a crystal. Or he was just looking for stuff. We'll have to ask him when he gets in here. But at that point, he checked the rest of Turtle Rock. You noped on out of there, and you started getting prepared for Hera immediately. You kind of took the lead back and have held it ever since. So definitely good job on, I guess, being thorough and keeping that intel close, because that definitely helped you a lot in this seed.
Yeah, and you sometimes can underestimate just how helpful it is. Like that kind of information and such. Like it's not items, it's not progression, or I mean, even checking hints can be decisive, as like skipping an item or something.
Yeah, you were both pretty thorough about checking those hint tiles, and that definitely helped you, especially like in Swamp, knowing that the left side was useless.
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice to get like to get the information to not do left side swamp, and I mean, especially in Kisanity. In Kisanity, you kind of need to be more thorough with your checks because there's a lot of more required items spread all over the world.
Yeah, definitely. And just for a second, we are going to very quickly announce this. It looks like Jet has finished up his run as well. And looks like his time is 1 hour, 58 minutes, and 32 seconds. Very, very close race. So definitely, definitely a good watch for everyone involved. And looks like we have Jet in the waiting room, so I'll go ahead and bring him in so we can continue this discussion. And joining us, we have Jet082. GG on the run. Very, very close race.
Hey, GG.
GG.
So one thing I did really want to ask, and something we were personally wondering about during the last moments of this seed, did you just not have the information about Hera being a crystal or pendant in Turtle Rock when you found it, Chet, or not?
Yeah, man, I had no idea I picked up the pod map. So at the time when I was doing Mire and Desert, I'm like, I just need keys. I'm still looking for the Swamp Small key and whichever big key for a crystal dungeon that I needed. So I was sort of looking for that, and my brain sort of turned off anything that was like not that. So I thought I checked the map, and I did. I checked it earlier, like before I did Mire. So like for some reason I mentally said I checked the Dark World map. I don't know what pod is. I checked the map for Light World, and Hera was not marked yet. So I'm like, I guess I don't know which is which. And that was stupid. I should have double checked. I should have, it would have taken a second just to double check to make sure I didn't know pod, but I didn't.
Well, I mean, you are under the pressure of a round of 32 tournament race, so...
Right, but the whole
kind
time
of
I'm thinking going into Turtle Rock, like, what if I get one of the big keys? Do I just go and gamble? If I had gotten it early on, like the first 3, maybe up to the Chain Chomp chest, I would have mirrored, like if it was Hera, mirrored and went and did it. Like, I would have done that, no problem. But it was just late enough that we did Mimic Cave, so mirroring wouldn't have saved me that much time. So I'm like, I better check Laser Bridge while I'm here, just in case I need Pod Big Key instead. And I'm like, the whole time, I'm just like, this is wrong. Like, I should have just left and gambled it. I knew it was wrong. And I actually caught the end of the restream, since we have our stream delay. And I could see how close we were. We were both in Turtle Rock at the same time. I mean, my GT was pretty bad, but it was super close.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of lead bouncing back and forth throughout the entire run.
It felt somewhat linear. I mean, it sort of bottlenecked you a lot, like with the placement of hammer, the placement of flippers. Like, it wanted you to do a lot of things to finally be able to open up the world.
Yeah, and like you said, it was definitely close. Honestly, I'd say, like, I don't think the lead ever got bigger than the lead that's basically it ended with when Asazas finished before you fell, Jet. Like, I don't think it ever got bigger than that. Like, it literally was a very close race from the very beginning to the very end. And, you know, there was a lot of very interesting aspects where, you know, you actually did the Super Bunny sequence break, which I know that chat really enjoyed watching that, and actually, you know, seeing the information about why that cave gets its name and getting that sword, which allowed you to actually do some of the, like, following parts a lot more consistently, because Asazas had to go through Escape with just bombs and wasn't able to finish Thieves Town right away. So, you know, you got a little bit of a bigger head start because of that, but that also gave more weight to Asazas when he had to go to Dark Death Mountain to check, so he got the sword then, along with the Fire Rod, which led him to the Flippers, which led him to the Hammer. So the lead kind of changed there.
Yeah.
But then you went to Pyramid Fairy sooner, and that's when you got the lead back. So, like, it just bounced back and forth and back and forth.
Like, man, getting the sword was, like, it felt pretty good. I'm like, this might be an advantage, because I know not everyone does a Super Bunny, and just getting an item like that. But I also knew in the back of my head, it makes me avoid Hookshot Cave until much later, just because there's only 4 chests of that, and it's a long hike to get up there. And I knew that, like, going into it, and I figured, let's just check the value locations. Eventually, I'll get back up there. Ideally, when I can also go do some Turtle Rock stuff while I'm there. It just never worked out that way. And I was sort of coin flip whether I should do Ice or do the Pyramid Fairy. Because it's like 2 quick checks. And I'm like, I'd rather do a dungeon. And at the time, I wasn't even sure if it was a crystal. So I'm like, let me do the dungeon just in case. And of course, back in my head, I'm like, because at the very end, looking for those keys, it's like, is it the Thieves Big Chest that I skipped for ages? Is it the Ice Big Chest that I can finally go do and I also skipped? It's like, could it be one of these? And I'm just, there's nothing I can do. But it wasn't the case, and I just didn't check my map.
It happens. So I guess I just went into Ice Palace way earlier than you did yet.
Oh, really? Like after you got Hammer?
Pretty much immediately after I got Hammer. Well, I finished the Thieves Town after I got the Hammer, and then I think pretty much immediately I checked like the Hammer packs and the bats, and then I flew to Ice Palace.
Yeah, because you went there right after you got the Ice Palace small key from the Magic Bat, I believe, and we were kind of saying, oh, okay, well, maybe that put in his mind that he went there next, even though you don't really need this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The small key for Ice, though, it's really, really nice to have. It saves, I mean, I don't know the exact time it saves, but it's significant.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I unfortunately went in there with nothing. And I got the small key afterwards. And I'm like, that would have been nice earlier. I don't know. It definitely took some time, and I also had to use one of my potions then. Like, I used one of my potions then, and then I used one of my potions doing Laser Bridge, which also just made a sloppy GT and Ganon. So it's like, all of these things together added up the time loss that, I mean, I also purposely fell again because I didn't feel like dealing with the non-torch glitch, but...
Yeah, I remember forgetting checking the big chest in Eastern when I went to kill the boss. Like, luckily I had the compass.
Wasn't there a key in there?
There was a Ganon's tower key, so what would I have done without that? But yeah, I mean, it kind of felt bad, and the bomb escape was a mess. That was embarrassing. It's been such a long time since I last practiced that.
But yeah, again, great showing from both of you. Definitely some very high, like, I know that there's like those cases where, you know, if you're not super proud of like your execution, like in the case of Ganon's Tower and whatnot, but still, I mean, a seed like this, both done in under 2 hours, hard key sandy, very nicely done, and you know, we're all honored to have you guys put this race on for us today, and also putting on a race for us tomorrow at the same exact time, game 2 of this series with Azazas' settings. So best of luck to both of you for that race tomorrow. Maybe Jet, you can bring it back and force a game 3, or Azazas can end it early. We'll just have to wait and see, and just best of luck to both of you.
I mean, game 3 means the bot picks. Who knows what we'll get?
Get an interesting show for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so far in the tournament, I have won way more opponents' choices than my own choices, so... I mean, this isn't over. This isn't over at all.
Yeah, and if this race is any indication of how close it can be, so yeah, it'll definitely be an entertaining one for sure. Okay, so I think we're gonna wrap it up here since we see both the ending screens now. Any last thoughts or anything else you guys want to say before we sign off here?
Thank you guys for commentating, restreaming, tracking. Always remember the tracker.
Yeah, thank you to everyone participating in this restream, and hope it was an entertaining race to watch. See you tomorrow.
Okay, awesome. So with that, that is going to be game 1 of Jet082 versus Azazas. Going to give a special thank you to our tracker, OSS Geek, for keeping all those buttons lit at the bottom of the streams that you see there. Thank you to Michael K, our restreamer, putting on this match when Speed Gaming was unable to get the time in their schedule to put it on there. So thank you for having that on board so people can still watch this entertaining race. And of course, big shout out to our runners for putting on the show for us today. And of course, my co-commentator, Huffman, had a lot of fun calling this one with you. And yeah, hope you had fun as well.
Absolutely, always a pleasure, and always a pleasure to commentate these wonderful races.
Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and sign off. Got another race coming in about an hour, so if you guys want to stick around for that, we got inverted swordless hard. So hope you guys are ready for that.
But until then, adios.
Later, guys.